What if Dooku went to Naboo to help Qui-Gon? What would happen then? Let's find out. So in this timeline, everything would be the same as in the original timeline, till the point where, as seen in the Tales of the Jedi, Qui-Gon speaks with Dooku before departing to Naboo. In the original timeline, Dooku stayed in the temple as Qui-Gon left, but in this new timeline, Dooku, realizing how the Council is sending Qui-Gon and his apprentice to Naboo with no additional Jedi support, decides to join Qui-Gon. Dooku would make this decision without even bothering to listen to what the Council had to say about that. As for Qui-Gon, he found his Soul Master's decision to join him a bit odd, but was happy about it. And so, soon enough, with Padme, Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, and Anakin Skywalker, Dooku as well left for Naboo. During the trip, Qui-Gon introduced Dooku to Obi-Wan and Anakin. Qui-Gon told Dooku how Obi-Wan would become a greater Jedi than Qui-Gon himself, singing Obi-Wan's praises as usual. And as for Obi-Wan, he spoke with great respect towards Dooku, acknowledging Dooku's esteemed status as Qui-Gon's master. And then, Qui-Gon introduced Anakin to Dooku. And noticing Anakin, Dooku kneeled down, his long cape sweeping the floor. Dooku then said some kind words to Anakin, gently rubbing his hair as he stood up. Anakin's response to this was a look of awe and curiosity. At this point, Qui-Gon excused himself from both Obi-Wan and Anakin to speak with Dooku privately. As they walked away, Anakin asked Padawan Kenobi who that man was. Obi-Wan, with a look of surprise, told Anakin that Dooku was someone he did not expect to meet here. Meanwhile, Dooku and Qui-Gon found a quiet corner in the ship, away from the others, the hum of the ship's engines creating a soothing background as they began their conversation. So Qui-Gon explained to Dooku how Anakin had a midichlorian count higher than that of Yoda, and how Qui-Gon believes Anakin is the prophesied chosen one, the one destined to bring balance to the Force. Qui-Gon told Dooku that he was certain it was the will of the Force that led him to Anakin on Tatooine. Qui-Gon also mentioned how the Council refuses to allow Anakin to be trained, citing that he is too old. Dooku, not surprised by the Council's rigidity, listened intently. And then, once Qui-Gon finished detailing everything, Dooku contemplated this information. The Jedi had many prophecies, but Qui-Gon's conviction and the boy's potential made Dooku consider the possibility that this child could indeed be the chosen one. At this point, Dooku began to rethink his partnership with Sidious. If the one destined to destroy the Sith had been found, then following Sidious's plan might lead to the destruction of the Sith, and thereby his own plans. And so, because of what Qui-Gon shared, Dooku began to wonder if his alignment with the Sith was a mistake. And in response to everything Qui-Gon said, Dooku simply stated that the will of the Force is mysterious and that the Council is making a mistake by ignoring Qui-Gon's findings. As the Naboo starship traveled through hyperspace, the atmosphere became tense with Dooku's inner conflict. Dooku's thoughts raced as he pondered the implications of Qui-Gon's discovery and the path that he had chosen. The dim light inside the ship reflected off his stern features, highlighting the depth of his contemplation. By the time they reached Naboo, Dooku's mind was filled with doubts about his current path. Dooku watched out the viewport as the lush green planet appeared on the horizon, a stark contrast to the mechanical and bustling environment of Coruscant. As they descended into Naboo's atmosphere, Dooku's resolve began to shift further, influenced by the possibility that the Force had indeed brought him to a turning point in history. Having landed on Naboo, the group, which included Padme and her people, the 3 Jedi, and Anakin, followed Jar Jar Binks to Boss Nass, the Gungan leader. At this point, Padme revealed herself as the true queen, and after a tense negotiation, they reached an agreement with the Gungans. With their alliance solidified, they went over Padme's plan to trap Newt Gunray. And as Padme and the Jedi snuck into the palace, Qui-Gon instructed Anakin to remain safe in an N-1 starfighter. "Stay in the ship, Anakin. Keep out of harm's way," he told the boy, who nodded, though his eyes sparkled with a mix of fear and excitement. The palace grounds were eerily quiet, the air thick with anticipation, and the faint hum of the few droids patrolling the area, because the remaining droid forces had been diverted away thanks to the Gungans. The group advanced cautiously, with Padme leading her forces with the calm precision of a leader. But just as they approached the inner chambers, Darth Maul appeared, his menacing presence casting a shadow over the group. His red and black tattooed face was malicious as he ignited his double-bladed lightsaber. Recognizing how formidable Maul was, Dooku stepped forward, his expression calm but resolute. "We will handle him," he told Padme and her forces. Qui-Gon then turned to Obi-Wan, his face stern yet reassuring. "Obi-Wan, help the Queen. We will deal with this." Obi-Wan hesitated, glancing between his master and the looming threat of Maul. He opened his mouth to protest, but caught the reassuring look on Dooku's face, a silent promise of their capability. And so, with a reluctant nod, Obi-Wan led the group away, leaving Qui-Gon and Dooku to face the Sith alone. Qui-Gon and Dooku then advanced towards Maul, their lightsabers igniting in unison. Maul twirled his saber staff, the red blades whirling menacingly as he prepared for the duel. Qui-Gon's fighting style, Ataru, was characterized by powerful acrobatic strikes. He moved with a fluid grace, each leap and swing of his lightsaber imbued with raw strength and precision. Dooku, on the other hand, utilized Makashi, an ancient and elegant form of lightsaber combat. His movements were precise and efficient, each parry and riposte executed with meticulous accuracy. Maul, meanwhile, employing the aggressive Juyo lightsaber form, was a whirlwind of fury and agility. His strikes were relentless, blending acrobatics and raw power to overwhelm his opponents. The clash of styles created a deadly ballet, with each fighter pushing the other to their limits. The battle raged on, moving from the grand halls of the palace into the depths of the Theed generator complex. The complex was a labyrinth of narrow catwalks and towering energy beams, the air humming with the sound of machinery and the crackling of reactors. This environment added an additional layer of danger, with each misstep potentially fatal. Qui-Gon and Dooku's coordination became more apparent as they adapted to the confined space. Qui-Gon used his powerful strikes to keep Maul on the defensive, while Dooku's precise maneuvers cut off Maul's escape routes and countered his aggressive attacks. But despite their combined skill, Maul's ferocity and agility made him an immense threat. And moments later, in a moment of intense combat, Maul actually managed to separate Qui-Gon and Dooku, forcing Qui-Gon into a narrow catwalk. Sensing the opportunity, Maul launched a flurry of attacks, driving Qui-Gon further towards the edge. And Qui-Gon, despite his strengths, struggled to maintain his footing against the formidable Sith. But Dooku, seeing his friend in peril, acted swiftly. He quickly closed the distance between him and Maul, and then, with a calculated strike, he parried Maul's saber staff and thrust forward, forcing Maul to shift his focus. Maul then turned, his eyes blazing with fury, as he engaged Dooku in a vicious exchange. Their sabers clashed, and then Maul, again showcasing his formidable skills, managed to knock Dooku back with a powerful kick, sending him sprawling into the catwalk. Maul then turned his attention back to Qui-Gon, fully fueled by rage and anger at this point, making the Sith immensely strong, but also slightly ignorant of his surroundings. Maul then focused on Qui-Gon, and mere moments into fighting Qui-Gon, Maul spotted an opening. He blocked Qui-Gon's strike, and then with a decisive grin, prepared to drive his double-bladed saber into Qui-Gon's chest. But right before Maul could do that, Dooku, with a surge of energy, rose to his feet, and in a single, fluid motion, he leapt towards Maul and launched his blue lightsaber in a precise arc. The blade sliced through the air, severing Maul's outstretched arm, just as he was about to strike Qui-Gon. Maul then growled in pain, his saber staff falling from his grip. And then, before Maul could react, Dooku was upon him. With a final decisive strike, Dooku decapitated Maul, the Sith's body collapsing in a lifeless heap. The red blades of Maul's saber staff deactivated with a hiss. The battle finally over. Qui-Gon, breathing heavily, looked at Dooku with a mixture of relief and gratitude. The hum of the generators and the crackle of energy filled the complex, but the immediate danger had passed. The two Jedi Masters then stood side by side, their bond strengthened by the battle and their shared victory. And then, without wasting any time, Qui-Gon and Dooku began making their way back to Padme. They moved quickly through the corridors of the Theed Palace, their lightsabers at the ready. The palace was still eerily quiet, but they could hear the distant sounds of battle echoing through the halls. And as they approached the throne room, they found Padme and her forces successfully cornering Newt Gunray and his Nemodian accomplices. Meanwhile, Anakin, just like in the original timeline, had managed to destroy the droid control ship in orbit, and as a result, the droid armies on Naboo collapsed, following which the Gungans, led in part by Jar Jar Binks, overpowered the remaining Trade Federation forces. The cheers of victory soon echoed across the plains of Naboo, as the planet was freed from its oppressors. After the battle, Anakin flew back to Naboo in his N1 starfighter. As he descended, he contacted ground control on his communicator and was soon reunited with Qui-Gon Jinn. Later, as the sun began to set over the lush landscape of Naboo, Dooku and Qui-Gon found some time to talk. "Do you truly believe the boy is the chosen one?" Dooku asked, his voice low and thoughtful. "Yes, Master," Qui-Gon replied without hesitation. "I do believe it is his destiny to bring balance to the Force." Dooku then faced away from Qui-Gon, his mind trying to process his conflicting thoughts. And then, with a calm resolve on his face, Dooku said the following. "Qui-Gon, there is something you must know. The Republic is being manipulated by the Sith, or rather one Sith, called Darth Sidious." Hearing this, Qui-Gon stepped closer, his eyes narrowing in concern. "What do you mean, Master?" Dooku took a deep breath, gathering his thoughts. "I had become disillusioned with the Republic and our own order. Their corruption and incompetence had driven me to seek another way. And it was during this time that Sidious came to me with the plan to rid the galaxy of corruption and bring peace. Qui-Gon listened intently, the weight of Dooku's words sinking in. I don't understand, Master. The Sith came to you? Yes, Dooku admitted, his voice tinged with regret. I believed that the Sith way was the only way to end corruption of the Jedi and the Republic. And because of this belief, I did help Sidious put some of his plans into motion. Dooku then turned around. But now, having seen the Chosen One, I doubt my decisions, Qui-Gon. The Force revealing the Chosen One, the one to destroy the Sith, that can only mean that the path of the Sith can only lead to destruction. The Force wants balance, and the dark side can only bring imbalance. So seeking peace through the dark side is a pointless endeavor. I see that now, Qui-Gon. Thanks to you finding Anakin. Qui-Gon then placed a hand on Dooku's shoulder. Who is this Sidious, Master? Is he manipulating the Senate officials? Who is he? Dooku's expression darkened. He is the Senate, Qui-Gon. Sidious is Palpatine. Qui-Gon's eyes widened in shock. Palpatine? The Chancellor is the Sith? That's impossible. How could the Jedi have not seen it? The dark side has clouded the Jedi's vision, Qui-Gon. They've been blind for some time now, Dooku said. How do we deal with this? Qui-Gon asked. There is no legal way to deal with him. Being a Sith itself is not a crime in the Republic. And if we were to allow the Council, they will do nothing but debate and debate until Sidious has destroyed them. Dooku then went on to share more details with Qui-Gon. He told Qui-Gon everything from Camino to the invasion of Naboo to how Maul was Sidious's own apprentice. And after all was said, the two Jedi Masters stood in silence. The distant cheers of celebration as Gunray and his accomplices were cuffed and brought outside the Teeth Palace seemed almost mocking in their contrast to the grim reality they faced. All of this, the invasion of Naboo, everything, was designed by Palpatine to accomplish the goal of ascending the Chancellorship. They were dancing to his tunes. When Dooku finally spoke, his voice was filled with determination. Qui-Gon, we must destroy Sidious together. It is the only way to save the galaxy from the Sith. The corrupt Republic would never believe us, and the Jedi Council wouldn't take us serious before it was too late. Looking at his old master at this point, Qui-Gon saw the sincerity and desperation within, and he nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the task before them. Then we will do it, Master. For the sake of the galaxy, we will take down Sidious. As the two Jedi Masters stood united in their resolve, the night sky above Naboo was filled with stars. The celebration of victory was a fleeting moment of joy in the face of the dark challenge that lay ahead. Together, they would confront the Sith and fight to bring balance to the Force. So soon after, Qui-Gon and Dooku prepared to return to Coruscant. Anakin and Obi-Wan, of course, accompanied them, their ship leaving the lush green planet behind and ascending into the vastness of space. The atmosphere aboard the Jedi shuttle was heavy with urgency and unspoken tension. Qui-Gon and Dooku were deep in conversation, their faces etched with seriousness. Obi-Wan and Anakin, feeling ignored, exchanged uneasy glances. Obi-Wan had never seen his master so tense. Qui-Gon Jinn, usually the epitome of serenity, was now a picture of intense focus and worry, as Obi-Wan could sense. Obi-Wan couldn't help but wonder what dire matters Qui-Gon and his master were discussing so fervently. Later, as the ship traveled through hyperspace, Anakin actually spoke to Obi-Wan. Do you know what will happen to me now? He asked, his voice changed with uncertainty. Obi-Wan smiled reassuringly. You'll be fine, Anakin. Master Qui-Gon has a way of convincing the Council of things. Trust in him, and in the Force. Anakin nodded, though his eyes held a trace of worry. The two then fell silent, the hum of the ship's engines filling the quiet. Eventually they arrived back on Coruscant. The sprawling Ecumenopolis was a stark contrast to the tranquil landscapes of Naboo. And as they descended into Coruscant, the sense of urgency only grew in Dooku and Qui-Gon. Upon landing, the two masters, the Padawan, and Anakin made their way to the Jedi Temple without delay. The atmosphere inside the temple was calm, yet there was an undercurrent of tension, as if the temple itself could sense the gravity of what Dooku and Qui-Gon were preparing to do. And once inside the temple, Dooku excused himself from the group and walked away. And Obi-Wan, unable to contain his curiosity and concern any longer, asked Qui-Gon the following. Master, I can tell something is bothering you. It's not just the Sith we encountered, is it? Hearing Obi-Wan's concern, Qui-Gon excused himself from Anakin, who was standing next to him, and then ushered Obi-Wan a bit further away from Anakin and anyone else's earshot. The corridors of the Jedi Temple were lined with statues of revered Jedi Masters, their silent gazes adding to the solemn atmosphere as Qui-Gon spoke. Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon began, his voice low and serious. The threat of the Sith might be bigger and more sinister than we had initially thought. Obi-Wan's brow furrowed with worry. What do you mean, Master? What exactly is the threat? Qui-Gon then reached into his robe and produced a small data card. He handed it to Obi-Wan, the weight of the object seeming to carry the weight of their situation. If you do not see me again soon, Obi-Wan, take this data card to the Council. You must not access it till then. That is the only way this plan of ours will work. Cannot trust you to do that, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's concern only deepened having heard all this. Of course, Master, but what is on this? What is happening? I can't reveal that now, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon said, placing a hand on Obi-Wan's shoulders. Promise me you will keep this data card safe and secret till the time is right. And I must also ask you, Obi-Wan, that if, for some reason, I am not able to train the boy, you must do it. He is the chosen one, Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's heart pounded in his chest. The sense of foreboding was palpable. I promise, Master, but what? Qui-Gon interrupted him. Soon all will be explained, Obi-Wan, and hopefully I will be the one doing the explaining. Before Obi-Wan could respond, they were again interrupted, this time by Master Yaddle, who approached the pair. Her demeanor one of deep concern, but her expression soon changed once she sensed the tension in the air. Is everything all right, Qui-Gon? She asked, her voice calm but probing. Yes, Master Yaddle, Qui-Gon replied, following which he briefly summarized the events on Naboo. In response, Yaddle nodded, her concern evident, and moreover she could tell that Qui-Gon was bothered by something else, something more than what happened on Naboo. And the Council, Master Yaddle, have they decided on the boy's fate? Qui-Gon asked. The decision will be made soon, Yaddle replied. We must trust in the Force, she said. So, quick side note, in The Phantom Menace, once Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan leaves to Naboo with Anakin, Yoda does say that Anakin's fate will be decided later. So they had not completely denied Anakin training. And later, after Qui-Gon's death in the original timeline, the Council did put Anakin's decision up to a vote, and it was decided that Anakin would be trained. So even in the original timeline, it was ultimately decided that Anakin would be trained, even before Obi-Wan said that he would train him without the Council's agreement. So in this timeline as well, Anakin would be trained by Obi-Wan if something were to happen to Qui-Gon. Anyways, back to the story. So after Yaddle said Anakin's fate will be decided later, Dooku entered the scene, his presence commanding attention. She nodded at Master Yaddle, who returned the gesture. Qui-Gon, we need to go, Dooku said, his tone urgent but controlled. Obi-Wan, unable to hide his worry, asked the following. Where are you going, Master Qui-Gon? I will see you soon, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon assured him. The unspoken weight of their mission hanging in the air. Qui-Gon and Dooku then approached Anakin. Qui-Gon knelt down to Anakin's level, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. Though Obi-Wan and Yaddle couldn't hear the words exchanged, they could see Anakin's solemn nod and the serious expression on the two Jedi Masters' faces. Qui-Gon and Dooku then stepped into a nearby turbo lift, the doors closing with a soft whoosh. The hum of the lift as it descended added to the tension in the air. Yaddle then turned to Obi-Wan. Noticing the data card, Obi-Wan clutched tightly in his hand. Are you concerned for your master, Obi-Wan? She asked, looking at the data card. I'm not, Master, Obi-Wan began, his voice betraying his uncertainty. But I did wish things were a bit more clearer. Yaddle nodded, her expression thoughtful. Then perhaps we should open our eyes, Yaddle said, her thoughts difficult to read. The vast expanse of the Jedi Temple felt unusually still. The ambient noise of the city planet outside seemed distant, muffled by the weight of the moment. Obi-Wan glanced at Anakin, who was trying to process the whirlwind of events. The boy's eyes were wide with a mix of fear and curiosity, much like Obi-Wan's own emotions. Dooku and Qui-Gon soon made their way to the hangar and boarded a speeder. The evening on Coruscant was vibrant, yet cloaked in a sense of urgency. The sky was painted with hues of deep orange and purple, the cityscape beneath them bustling with activity as countless airspeeders zipped through the towering skyscrapers. The speeder soon lifted off from the hangar, and the two Jedi Masters flew away, disappearing into the evening sky, becoming mere dots in the horizon. Their destination was a building known as Limmerge, which was located in a region of Coruscant known as the Works. The Works, which was a large industrial area, was once an immense manufacturing center, but it had since been abandoned by the companies in favor of cheaper, awful labor. Now it was a desolate and shadowy district, known for rust and danger. And it was in this abandoned region of Coruscant, in the Limmerge building, that Dooku and Sidious often met in secret. And it was where they were headed right now, with Dooku having arranged a meeting with the Dark Lord. As they traveled, piloted by Dooku, the former master and apprentice spoke little. Everything to say had already been said, but the trip did remind Qui-Gon of the missions he used to go on with his master. He glanced at Dooku, who seemed focused on nothing other than navigating the speeder. Qui-Gon's thoughts then drifted to the data card he had given Obi-Wan and its contents. He did trust Obi-Wan to do what was asked of him. And as for the contents of the data card, it contained a hollow coding of both Dooku and Qui-Gon. And in this hollow coding, Dooku admitted to his alignment with Sidious, revealing that Sidious was Palpatine. The recording detailed Sidious's plans on Kamino and how Dooku had helped Sidious in his plans due to his disillusionment with the Republic and the Jedi Order itself. The data card also detailed how he and Qui-Gon were on their way to confront Sidious in the works, and that if they did not return, it meant Sidious had killed them, and that the Jedi needed to act without delay against Palpatine. Qui-Gon believed that this would be enough for the Council to finally act, instead of endlessly debating on the matter if he and Dooku could not deal with Sidious themselves. The data card also contained a message from Qui-Gon to Obi-Wan, declaring him fit to stand trials and affirming his beliefs that Obi-Wan would become a great Jedi. And additionally, it also provided evidence linking Sidious to Palpatine, supplied by Dooku. So the two masters had planned to make sure that Palpatine would be brought to light, even if they failed to do so. As their speeder approached the works, the atmosphere grew noticeably darker. The air was thick with the industrial remnants of the once thriving sector. Tall, abandoned factories and warehouses loomed ominously, their shadows stretching long across the ground. The environment was eerie, the only sounds being the distant hum of machinery and the occasional gust of wind whistling through the deserted buildings. Dooku skillfully maneuvered the speeder towards the Lemur's building, its silhouette stark against the dusky sky. This was a place where many clandestine meetings had taken place between Dooku and Sidious, and now it would serve as the stage for their attempt to end the Sith's influence over the Republic and the galaxy. The speeder then made its way towards the entrance of the building, the entrance sliding open as the speeder approached. The speeder then touched down softly, and the two Jedi Masters disembarked, their footsteps echoing slightly in the vast emptiness. The interior of the Lemur's building was as desolate as the exterior. Abandoned machinery and equipment were scattered around, remnants of a bygone era. The air inside was heavy with dust and the lingering scent of oil and metal. It also felt as if the building was rotting from the presence of the dark side. The malevolent presence of the dark side was almost tangible to Dooku. Every shadow in the building seemed to stretch unnaturally, as if the darkness itself were alive and reaching out. Dooku's eyes scanned the area, sharpened, searching, and then he saw it. The source of the dark rot he was sensing. A hooded figure, cloaked in darkness, was walking towards them. The figure moved with a predatory grace, its presence chilling and sinister. And Sidious had come knowing the likely risk, aware that Dooku likely had a hand in destroying Maul, and that he's becoming a potential danger that needed to be dealt with personally. Sidious was of course not blind to the possibility of betrayal, and his presence there was a testament to his determination to eliminate any threats to his plans. And the presence of Qui-Gon further affirmed Sidious's belief that Dooku had indeed become a threat who had outgrew his needfulness. Dooku then glanced at Qui-Gon, his expression unreadable but his eyes conveying a message that Qui-Gon had seen many times during their missions together. Be ready. This is what it meant. Qui-Gon nodded subtly, his resolve hardening. He was ready. The shadow that was Sidious then drew closer and closer, each step echoing ominously in the vast, empty space. When the shadow finally stood before them, the air seemed to grow even colder. The shadow then turned its head towards Qui-Gon, and then towards Dooku. The hood remained down, shrouding its face in darkness. Yet Qui-Gon felt as though it could see him with piercing clarity. No words were spoken. The silence was heavy, as if all three knew exactly why they were there. The tension between them was almost unbearable. And then, in the same exact moment, as if moved by a single unspoken command, all three drew their lightsabers, the sound of their ignition reverberating through the desolate space, the blue, green, and crimson hues casting an eerie glow on the rusted walls. Qui-Gon's green blade hummed with a steady, powerful energy, reflecting his unwavering commitment to the Force. His Ataru form was ready to spring into action. Dooku's blue blade was elegant and precise, embodying his mastery over Makashi. Meanwhile, the Sith Lord's crimson blade burned with a fierce, malevolent intensity, the color of blood and fire a reflection of his mastery of Juyo, the aggressive and unpredictable form of combat. And as all three combatants stood ready in their stances, the atmosphere was electric, charged with the raw energy of the dark side, clashing with the light. As they stood ready, the Dark Lord of the Sith finally spoke, his voice a low, sinister hiss. "So you have come to confront me? How predictable." Dooku's eyes narrowed, his grip tightening on his lightsaber. "Your reign ends here, Sidious." The Sith Lord chuckled, a sound devoid of warmth. "We shall see," he said. And with that, the battle began. Sidious moved with blinding speed, his crimson blade a blur of deadly precision. Dooku and Qui-Gon met his attacks with equal ferocity, their sabers clashing in a dazzling display of skill and power. The environment they were in was getting increasingly dark due to night falling on Coruscant. There were also many towering machinery and obstacles in the environment, providing opportunities for maneuvering. Qui-Gon leaped with his acrobatic grace, using a Sataru form to keep Sidious off balance. Dooku, with his Makashi precision, countered Sidious's aggressive strikes with calculated efficiency. Sidious, meanwhile, moved with a mastery that transcended any single form of lightsaber combat. His ability to switch between the aggressive Juyo, the defensive Soresu, and the balanced Demon made him a terrifying opponent. His blade struck the two Jedi with the precision of a viper, forcing both Qui-Gon and Dooku to remain on constant alert, not giving them an opening. And so, despite their formidable skills, Qui-Gon and Dooku found themselves pushed to their limits. The Dark Lord's strikes came from all angles, each one imbued with the dark side's raw power. Each strike and parry sent sparks flying. The shadows of the equipment around them seemed to dance and twist as if the darkness itself was alive, recoiling from the clash of light and dark. Sidious then pressed his advantage, forcing the two Jedi to separate. In one moment, his red blade arced towards Dooku's neck, but Qui-Gon intercepted the blow at the last moment, his green blade meeting the Sith's with a burst of energy. Sidious then spun on his heel, bringing his saber down towards Qui-Gon's head, and Dooku, with a precise lunge, deflected the strike just in time, saving Qui-Gon, just as Qui-Gon had saved him moments prior. The three combatants then moved through the rough interior of the building, their duel taking them across rusted catwalks and through towering machinery. At one instant, Qui-Gon leaped gracefully over a chasm, using his acrobatic Ataru to fight off Sidious's advantage, and Dooku, in the meanwhile, with his elegant Mikashi, parried and riposted with lethal precision, his blade movements economical and efficient, conserving energy. And Sidious, with his mastery over all forms of lightsaber combat, fought with the relentless fury of Maul, but with a cunning intelligence that made him even more dangerous. His strikes were always unpredictable and powerful, forcing Qui-Gon and Dooku to work together in perfect harmony to survive. At one point in the battle, Sidious feigned towards Dooku, and then spun and struck Qui-Gon. The crimson blade sliced through the air with terrifying speed. Qui-Gon barely managed to deflect the blow, the force of it sending him stumbling back, and Dooku immediately countered, his blue blade slicing through Sidious's midsection, but Sidious blocked it effortlessly, his eyes gleaming with malevolent delight. Sidious then tried to separate them, a strategy that Maul had used, but Sidious was doing it with better effectiveness. With a powerful force push, he sent Dooku sprawling into a pile of abandoned machinery. As Qui-Gon moved to assist his former master, Sidious lunged in front of him, their blades clashing in a shower of sparks. Dooku soon regained his footing, rejoining the fray, his precise strikes forcing Sidious to divide his attention again. The Dark Lord of the Sith used every trick at his disposal, from force pushes to acrobatic flips, to keep the two Jedi off balance and divided. Sidious then managed to leap backwards and created some space between him and his opponents. He then attacked the dude with a powerful force push, which sent the two Jedi skidding back. And then, with a malevolent grin, Sidious raised his hands and unleashed a torrent of force lightning. The two Jedi raised their lightsabers to deflect the lightning, but the sheer power of the attack forced them both to their knees. The air soon became filled with the smell of ozone and the sizzling of electricity. Qui-Gon gritted his teeth, his muscles straining as he fought to hold back the torrent of energy. Dooku, his face a mask of concentration, did the same, their sabers absorbing and redirecting the lightning. As the force lightning continued to pour from Sidious's hand, the two Jedi drew further upon the force, their connection to the light side giving them the strength to push back. And then slowly, inch by inch, they began to advance, their sabers cutting through the torrent of energy. And then, with the final, desperate surge, they pushed forward, their combined strength overwhelming the Sith's attack. The two Jedi were now close enough to deflect the lightning right back at Sidious, and because of that, Sidious staggered back, his eyes wide with fury. The two Jedi then pressed their advantage, their sabers flashing with renewed vigor. And so the battle continued with relentless intensity, the sound of clashing lightsabers and the crackle of energy filling the desolate, immersed building. Qui-Gon and Dooku again fought with a seamless unity, their movements synchronized through years of training and shared experiences. And then, as the battle went on, Dooku and Qui-Gon exchanged a glance, silently agreeing to a maneuver they had perfected during their many missions together. This maneuver involved a coordinated attack designed to overwhelm and disarm their opponents through a combination of Ataru's acrobatic strikes and Mikashi's precise, elegant fencing. And so Qui-Gon and Dooku decided to utilize this technique. And to do that, Qui-Gon leaped into the air, his green blade arcing towards Sidious's head, while Dooku lunged forward with a swift, thrusting motion aimed at Sidious's midsection. The combined assault was a flurry of precise, powerful strikes, designed to leave their opponent with no escape. And for a moment it seemed as though they had succeeded. Qui-Gon's lightsaber was mere inches from Sidious's neck, and Dooku's blade was poised to pierce the Sith Lord's defenses. But then, with an unbelievable display of reflexes, Sidious twisted his body with lightning speed, evading both strikes. And then, in a blink of an eye, Sidious retaliated, his crimson blade flashing through the air, and before Qui-Gon could react, it connected with his left leg, severing it cleanly. Qui-Gon fell to the ground with a cry of pain, his green lightsaber deactivating as he struggled to maintain consciousness. Sidious reveled in this, his malevolent laughter echoing through the chamber. He then raised his saber to deliver the final blow to Qui-Gon, but Dooku intervened, blocking the strike with his own blade. The two then locked sabers, the force of Sidious's attack, pushing Dooku down onto his knees. Sidious's face twisted into a deadly smile. Dooku, his strength now waning, looked at Qui-Gon in pain, his expression a mix of regret and determination. He knew they were losing, the overwhelming power of the Dark Lord pressing down on them. But in that moment, as he was moments away from being struck down by Sidious, Dooku sensed something, a ripple through the Force, a flicker of hope. Their battle by this point had brought all three combatants back to the entrance of the building. It was now dark outside and they couldn't really see anything, the only illumination provided by their lightsabers. But even though he could not see what was outside due to the dark, as soon as he sensed the ripple through the Force, Dooku looked out the direction of the entrance, which was still left open. And then, mere moments after he turned to look at the entrance, a Jedi shuttle appeared. And it was only now that Sidious himself noticed this shuttle approaching, because Sidious by this point was so consumed by his hate and anger, he had grown ignorant of his surroundings. He had become overconfident in his capabilities, and this weakness at this point allowed more Jedi to sneak up on him. It also helped that Dooku and Qui-Gon were not expecting anyone to help them. Qui-Gon had told Obi-Wan to keep the data card a secret, and he expected Obi-Wan to do that. So Sidious did not sense from the two Jedi any anticipation of backup. So Sidious has been caught off guard here. The Jedi shuttle then sped towards the building, followed closely by three others. The light from the shuttles illuminated the building, allowing everyone to see clearly what was going on. The roar of their engines grew louder, the vibrations thrumming through the structure. In a split second, the lead shuttle fired. Its blaster cannons aimed directly at Sidious, however at a lower intensity than usual, because they could not risk hitting Dooku. Sidious, however, sensing the approaching danger, twisted away just in time to avoid the deadly barrage. The blaster fire streaked past him, exploding against the wall of the building and filling the room with smoke and debris. The scene was chaotic, the scent of burning metal and ozone permeating the area. Sidious's expression darkened with fury. His moment of triumph snatched away. He looked back at Dooku and Qui-Gon, his eyes still blazing with malevolent intent. But then he assessed the situation. The Jedi shuttles were closing in, their weapons ready to fire again. Sidious's mind calculated the possibilities and determined that escape was the best option. There was no way he could fight all this force by himself. He knew he was still legally safe, even if the Jedi Council came to believe that he was Palpatine. So Sidious leaped towards the exit in the back of the chamber they were in. However, a Jedi shuttle fired a volley above the exit, causing an explosion that covered the exit in debris, trapping Sidious inside. As Sidious turned around, he saw that the Jedi had already landed and emerged with their sabers ignited. The air was charged with tension, the eerie glow of lightsabers casting long shadows across the room. Sidious then noticed the different Jedi that had arrived. Yaddle, Plo Koon, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shakti, Deepa Billaba, Mace Windu, Yariel, Poof, Coleman Trepper, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and even Master Yoda all stood against him with their lightsabers ignited. Their presence was overwhelming, their collective resolve palpable in the Force. And then, before Sidious could fully process the situation, the Jedi leapt to surround him. But Sidious, never giving up, sought another route for escape. His mind raced, calculating his options. He realized that all he needed to do was to reach one of the Jedi shuttles and then use one to escape. And then, with a powerful Force push, he sent many Jedi sprawling out of his way, the sound of bodies hitting the ground echoing through the chamber. And Sidious, without wasting a moment, then leapt through the opening. And right before he could reach the shuttle, Master Yaddle intervened. The diminutive Jedi Master extended her hand, using the Force to pull Sidious back into the center of the room. The tug was strong, and Sidious found himself being dragged back against his will, his frustration mounting as he was once again surrounded by Jedi, all circling him with their lightsabers ignited. Sidious again tried to leap away, but the Jedi, including Dooku, began pushing and pulling Sidious using the Force towards the center of the room, their combined strength a formidable barrier. And so the Jedi, now encircling Sidious, began to push him equally from all directions. Sidious could literally feel the weight of their determination pressing in on him from all sides. He could sense their unity, their shared purpose in stopping his reign of darkness. The room then seemed to close in, the walls of the Lemur's building echoing with the hum of Jedi lightsabers. Sidious again tried to break away from the Jedi's force push, to somehow fight back, to somehow maybe launch his force lightning, but the pressure from the Jedi's force push only grew, coming equally from all directions. Sidious drew further on the dark side. He could feel the dark side swelling within him, a tempest of malevolent energy. He then let out a growl, a sound filled with rage and desperation as he tried to resist the overwhelming force of the Jedi. The air around him seemed to thicken with palpable tension between the light and the dark, the oppressive darkness battling the luminous presence of the Jedi. And then, more of the Jedi who Sidious had force pushed away earlier at this point regained their footing, and they too joined their fellow Jedi in exerting their will upon Sidious. Even Qui-Gon, in his desperate state, joined in to crumble the dark shadow that was Sidious. The Jedi then walked closer in unison towards the center, all the while increasing the intensity of their force push. The rot that was Sidious, the malevolent corruption that had tainted the very air, began to crumble under the Jedi's combined might. The dark side flared within Sidious, an inferno of hatred and power, but the Jedi's resolve did not waver, and the light side finally began to break through Sidious's dark side defenses, which was, till this point, keeping the full intensity of the Jedi's force push at bay, keeping Sidious's physical form from crumbling. The dark side's grip weakened, the oppressive presence dissipating. Sidious's screams echoed for one last time within the chamber, a final outcry of defiance before the light side overwhelmed him. The dark energy flared one last time, then disappeared as Sidious's physical form crumbled into itself under the might of the Jedi. And then, as the darkness retreated, the Jedi let go, their collective force push ceasing, following which the form of Sidious, or what was left of him, fell to the floor. The room then became filled with a serene silence. The faint hum of Coruscant city life slowly returned, a distant reminder of the galaxy they had fought to protect. Mace Windu then stepped forward, his expression stern and unyielding. He approached the fallen Sidious. What was left of Sidious was mostly a crumbled mess, but his head still remained intact. The other Jedi watched Mace in silence, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and lingering caution for some reason. Windu then reached down to uncover the hood to reveal Sidious's face. The room seemed to hold its breath as the hood fell away, revealing an all too familiar form. So what had happened was that Yaddle, due to her concern for Dooku and Qui-Gon, and noticing the data card that Obi-Wan seemed to hold very close to him, told Obi-Wan that to keep a closer eye on potential dangers, Obi-Wan should reveal what Qui-Gon had told him. And while under normal circumstances, Obi-Wan would not have revealed the data card, due to Master Yaddle's insistence, he showed her the data card and told her what Qui-Gon had told him. Yaddle then quickly analyzed the data card and found what was inside, and upon doing so, she immediately went to the council along with Obi-Wan. After having placed Anakin under Master Sinube's care, by the way, and upon reaching the council, she showed them the data card and its contents, and told them that they immediately needed to go to where Qui-Gon and Dooku had gone, and that there was no time for debates, because if they delayed any further, they could lose two of their best and allow the Sith to survive. And this, of course, convinced the council. There was no room for debate as Qui-Gon and Dooku had already left, and it would have been extremely out of character for the two masters to play a joke like this. And so, the Jedi Council and some other masters boarded shuttles and headed exactly to where Dooku and Qui-Gon had gone. And that is how they arrived just in time to save Dooku and Qui-Gon, and also to defeat the Sith. So after this, several things would happen. Dooku would be forgiven for his transgressions. The Council would come to believe that Dooku underwent a test, and that he passed it, allowing the Sith to be destroyed. And so Dooku would not be expelled or anything. As for Qui-Gon, he would be given a cybernetic leg, and his status in the Jedi Order would also rise. And as for Anakin, in this timeline, he would be trained by Qui-Gon since he lived. And eventually, as time went on, Dooku and Qui-Gon would become members of the Jedi High Council. And due to Qui-Gon staying alive, eventually they would go back to Tatooine and free Shmi Skywalker. Because Qui-Gon understood that, with Shmi staying on Tatooine, Anakin could blame the Jedi for her predicament at some point. And so in this timeline, Shmi survives and Anakin grows up to be a very powerful Jedi. But as for what happened to Chancellor Palpatine after his death, well, the Jedi would discreetly dispose of his body, because explaining to the Senate that Palpatine was a Sith and he tried to kill the Jedi would have been too complicated, and it was best to let the Sith die in the dark. So, as far as the galaxy knew, Chancellor Palpatine went missing. Blame would be tossed around, with some blaming the Trade Federation, with some blaming something else, but all of that went nowhere and eventually it was forgotten. Just another one of the galaxy's great mysteries. Well, maybe not that great. And so in this timeline, there was ultimately peace. And as for Padme and Anakin, well, I really don't know how that would go. What do you think? Anyways, thank you to CJ Russell, Lord Newt Newt, and Rufus Nelson IV for supporting the channel on Patreon. And if you want to support the channel for $1 or more a month, do check out my Patreon, link should be in the description. And also, if you're in the market for a t-shirt or something, do check out the shop. I have a few in there, and that's it. Goodbye, stay hydrated, and may Master Yoda be always with you.